Los Angeles, 1997. The city of angels, where dreams come true and fortunes change. In the heart of this vast city stood a simple building. From the outside, it looked like any other warehouse. Normal walls, a few windows, nothing special. But appearances can be deceiving. This was no ordinary building. This was the Dunbar Armored Cash Distribution Center, and within its walls lay a treasure beyond imagination. Every day, large armored trucks went in and out of the center's gates. These were no ordinary trucks. They were moving fortresses, built to withstand attacks and keep their precious cargo safe. And what was that cargo? Millions, even billions of dollars in cash, constantly circulating through the banks of the city. The Dunbar Center was the heart of Los Angeles' financial system. Money flowed in, money flowed out, keeping the city's economy running. On any given day, its vaults held more than $100 million in cash. That's more money than most people will see in their entire lives. Most people passed by the building without a second thought. But one man saw it differently. His name was Alan Pace, and he worked there as a security guard. Alan was not a born criminal. He had never even been fined for speeding. But day after day, he watched the rivers of cash flow before him. He saw the armored trucks come and go. He learned the routines, the safety measures, the vulnerabilities. And slowly, a dangerous idea began to take root in his mind. What if he could steal all that cash? At first, Alan dismissed the thought. He was a good man, not a thief. But the idea kept returning, growing stronger each time. He started to think about how he could do it. He knew the building inside out. He knew when the cash would be at its highest. And he knew the security's weak points. The more Alan thought about it, the more convinced he became that he could pull it off. But he couldn't do it alone. He needed help. First, Alan thought of telling his best friend, Eugene Hill, about the idea. Eugene was also a security guard, and his record was clean too. One night, over beers, Alan told Eugene about his crazy plan. Eugene's eyes widened. He whispered, "Are you out of your mind? We could go to prison for life." But Alan was ready. He laid out every detail. How they would get inside, how they would avoid the cameras, how they would slip away clean. The more he talked, the more excited he got. And slowly, Eugene's amazement turned to interest. Alan said, "Think about it. We'll be set for life. No more crappy jobs, no more worrying about bills. We'll be rich." Eugene was silent for a long time. Then he nodded and said, "I'm in." With Eugene on board, Alan's confidence grew. He reached out to two more friends, Freddie McCrary and Terry Brown. They also worked in security, and their records were clean too. Alan knew he could trust them. At first, Freddie and Terry hesitated. This was no small crime. It was a huge risk. But seeing Alan's enthusiasm, everyone got excited. He painted a picture of a future where they would all be millionaires. No more struggling to get by. No more living paycheck to paycheck. One by one, they all agreed to join the plan. Alan's girlfriend also worked at the Dunbar Center. She was in charge of the security cameras. This was perfect. She could tell him how they worked, when the angles changed, everything he needed to know to avoid the cameras. But then bad luck struck. Someone found a bag of cash hidden in a corner of the building, away from the cameras. Alan's girlfriend was blamed and immediately fired. There was no evidence that she had done anything wrong, but the company didn't want to take any chances. Alan knew he had to act quickly. If they suspected his girlfriend, they might start watching him too. The time to execute the plan had arrived. One night, Alan gathered his team in an empty parking lot. Using chalk, he drew a detailed map of the Dunbar Center on the asphalt. The others stood around, listening intently as Alan explained every step of the plan. He said, "We'll go in on Friday night, when the vault will be the fullest. They'll have the whole weekend's cash ready for the banks." Pointing to his chalk map, he said, "The cameras are here. The guard on duty usually sits here. And the vault is here." The others were amazed at how much Alan knew. His confidence was on a different level. By the end of the night, they were all fully committed to the plan. But Alan's planning wasn't done yet. He knew they needed more information. So he took a big risk. He smuggled a camera into work. Over the next few days, Alan took pictures of everything. The vault, the security office, the loading dock. He even took photos of his colleagues, so the team would know who they might encounter during the heist. When he showed the photos to the team, they were impressed. This was no half-baked plan. Alan had thought of everything. The plan was set. They would strike on Friday night when the vault would be full of the weekend's cash. They would use Alan's key to get inside, use the information from his girlfriend to avoid the cameras, and tie up any employees they found. Then they would take as much cash as they could and disappear into the night. As the big day approached, Alan realized they needed one more person. He brought in his brother-in-law, Thomas Johnson, who was another security guard friend. Now they were a team of 6, Alan, Eugene, Freddie, Terry, and Thomas. This team of ordinary people was about to pull off one of the biggest cash heists in American history. But then another problem arose. Alan was fired from his job at the Dunbar Center. It happened suddenly. One day his boss called him into the office. Turn in your keys and clear out your locker. You don't need to come in tomorrow, the boss said. Alan's heart raced. This could ruin everything, but he kept his cool. He asked, "Can I at least finish my shift? I have some personal items in my locker." The boss shook his head. Alan went to his locker, his mind racing. He had to act fast. He took his key, the key that would let them into the building, and had a duplicate made. Then he returned the original key. That night, Alan called an emergency meeting with his team. He said, "Friends, it's now or never. We're doing this on Friday." The date was set, September 12th, 1997. In just 3 days, they would pull off the crime of the century. But they needed a distraction, something to take the focus off them. Eugene had an idea, a big family party. He said, "We'll all go to a family party, where lots of people will see us. Then we'll slip away, do the job, and come back. Everyone will swear we were at the party all night." It was brilliant. They spread the word. They invited friends and family to a big bash at Eugene's house on that Friday night. As the day of the heist arrived, the team gathered one last time to go over every detail. That's when Alan realized they still needed one more person. Someone to drive the getaway truck. Time was running out. In desperation, Alan called his brother-in-law, Eric Boyd. He gave Eric a brief overview of the plan. "Are you out of your mind? You want me to help rob an armored car company?" Eric said. Alan replied, "Think about it. Millions of dollars. You'll never have to work again." There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Then Eric said, "What do you need me to do?" And just like that, the team was complete. 6 ordinary men attempting an extraordinary crime. Friday night came. The party at Eugene's house was in full swing. Music blared, people laughed and danced. No one suspected a thing. One by one, the 6 men slipped away from the party. They met at a prearranged location, dressed in black. They put on masks and gloves. Alan handed out the guns, not to hurt anyone, but to scare the employees into cooperating. Eric, the getaway driver, stayed in civilian clothes. He wouldn't be going into the building with the others. As they drove towards the Dunbar Center, their hearts raced with excitement and fear, but luck was on their side. The only security camera outside the building was pointed in the wrong direction. Alan couldn't believe his eyes. He recognized the old pickup truck the camera was focused on. It belonged to the night supervisor, who was famous for his obsession with the security of his vehicle over the entrance. Using his duplicate key, Alan opened the door. Now they were inside. Moving like shadows, the team made their way through the building. They knew exactly when each security camera would change its angle, thanks to the information from Alan's girlfriend. They froze like a well-rehearsed dance when a camera turned their way, then continued on as soon as it moved. They found the on-duty guard exactly where Alan had predicted, in the break room, eating his meal. The man's eyes widened in shock as the 5 masked figures entered. Before he could react, they had him bound and gagged. But then, a complication. They heard the sound of the main door opening. Someone else was coming in. Alan's mind raced. This wasn't part of the plan. Who could it be? It was another guard, a truck driver who should have gone home hours ago. For a moment, the 5 men panicked. The driver would be armed. If he started shooting, the alarm would be raised. But once again, luck was on their side. As they rushed to stop him, Alan saw that the driver hadn't even put on his gun. He must have left it in his car. In just a few seconds, they had the other guard bound up with the first one. Heart pounding, Alan peeked into the vault room. Inside were 3 people, 2 accountants and a supervisor. The robbers burst in, waving their guns and shouting, "Don't move! Don't you dare touch that alarm!" The supervisor froze, his hand just inches from the hidden button that would call the police. The accountants threw their hands up, eyes wide with fear. Within minutes, all the employees were tied up. Now came the moment they had all been waiting for. Alan opened the vault, revealing piles and piles of cash. It was like something out of a movie. So much money. More than any of them had ever seen. For a moment, they just stared, scarcely able to believe their luck. Then Alan snapped them out of it. He said, "Remember, only take the old bills, nothing new or sequential." They started stuffing the cash into garbage bags. Hundreds, 20s, 50s. All old bills that would be hard to trace. As the bags filled up, they realized they were actually doing it. They were pulling off this heist. But Alan knew they weren't safe yet. They had to cover their tracks. He said, "The videotapes. We have to get rid of the security footage." They located the main recording system and removed the tapes. But Alan wasn't done. He led them to a hidden office where he knew there was a backup system. This too was disabled, and the tapes taken. As they prepared to leave, they faced one final obstacle. The getaway truck was so full of cash that there wasn't enough room for everyone to fit. For a moment, they considered leaving some of the money behind. But Alan wasn't having it. They had come too far. He wasn't leaving a single dollar. Then he had an idea. He turned to the bound supervisor and asked, "Where are your car keys?" The man's eyes went wide, but he nodded towards his jacket pocket. Alan took the keys to the supervisor's pickup truck, the same truck the outside camera had been watching all night. Alan announced, "Change of plan, Eric. You take the cash truck. The rest of us will follow in the pickup. When we're clear, we'll ditch the pickup and get in my car. It was risky. They would be splitting up. But it was the only way to get all the cash out. They loaded the last of the money into the truck and prepared to leave. But Alan had one more trick up his sleeve. Using tools from the building's maintenance room, he damaged the main entrance lock. Now it would look like someone had broken in from the outside. Making one last check to ensure they hadn't missed anything, the team left the building. Eric drove off in the cash-filled truck, while Alan and the others piled into the supervisor's pickup. They drove a short distance to where Alan had left his car, abandoned the pickup, and switched vehicles again. Then they made their way back to the party at Eugene's house. Quickly changing into their party clothes, they quietly rejoined the celebration. To any observer, it would seem they had never left. Meanwhile, back at the Dunbar Center, the bound employees struggled to free themselves. Hours later, one finally managed to break his bonds. He quickly untied the others and called the police. When the police arrived, they were confronted with a stunning scene. This was no ordinary robbery. It was one of the biggest cash heists in American history. The FBI was called in. Agents descended on the Dunbar Center, scouring for clues. At first, they assumed someone had broken in from the outside. But soon they realized this had to be an inside job. The robbers knew too much about the building, the security systems, everything. They interviewed every single person who worked at the center, including Alan. But they couldn't prove anything. Alan and his team stuck to their story that they had been at the party all night, and dozens of people corroborated their alibi. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. A whole year passed, and the case remained unsolved. The FBI was frustrated. They knew someone had to know something, but no one was talking. Meanwhile, Alan and his team were sitting on a fortune. But they knew they had to be careful. If they suddenly started spending a lot of money, it would raise suspicions. Alan had a plan. He started a small business. Nothing flashy, just a simple entertainment company. This would be the front for laundering the stolen cash. Slowly, ever so slowly, they started funneling money into the business, depositing a few thousand here, a few thousand there. They even paid taxes to make it all look legitimate. For 2 years, it seemed they had gotten away with it. They were living comfortably, if not lavishly. No one suspected a thing. But then Eugene made a fatal mistake. He decided he wanted to buy a house. A big, expensive house. And in a moment of careless overconfidence, he tried to purchase it with $100,000 in cash. Cash that was still in the original Dunbar Center wrappers. The real estate agent immediately became suspicious. Who buys a house with that much cash? And why did the bills look so new despite being old? As soon as Eugene left, the agent called the police. Suddenly, the FBI's cold case was hot again. They started digging into Eugene's background. They found that he had previously worked in security. They discovered that he had rented a truck on the day of the heist. A truck that matched the description of the getaway vehicle. When they brought Eugene in for questioning, he stuck to his story. But the FBI had him cornered. They told him they knew about the cash, the truck. They said they were going to charge his sister with money laundering because she had been writing checks from his account. Eugene cracked. He told them everything. About Alan's plan, the whole team, every detail of the heist. One by one, the FBI tracked down Alan and the rest of the crew. In court, the others turned on Alan, saying it was all his idea, that he had masterminded the whole thing. Alan sat there like a rock, as his former friends testified against him. In the end, Alan received the harshest sentence, 24 years in prison. The others got between 10 and 12 years. Their dream of easy money had turned into a nightmare. But there was one final twist. Of the $19 million they had stolen, the FBI only recovered about $7 million. That meant $12 million was still out there, hidden somewhere. Years passed. One by one, the robbers served their sentences and were released from prison. The last one got out just last year, in 2023. They had lost some of the best years of their lives, but they still had a chance to be wealthy. No one knows for certain where that missing $12 million is today. And so ends the true story of the Dunbar Armored Cash Distribution Center heist, one of the biggest cash robberies in American history. It's a tale of how carefully laid plans can be undone by the smallest slip-up. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to hear more incredible true crime stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. That way you'll never miss an upload. Thanks for watching. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think happened to that missing $12 million? Is it buried somewhere in LA waiting to be found? Or did the robbers manage to spend it all without getting caught? Leave your theories in the comments below. Also, I'm curious, what other heists or unsolved crimes would you like to see covered on this channel? Let me know in the comments.